This episode starts off exactly from where episode 5 ended off, and that's with the Boyd talking to Mama Chen. Boyd tells Mama Chen that everything he's doing is meant to be for the good of all the people living in Fromville. He tells her that what Sarah did to them, killing her husband, that was completely wrong. And that means he completely understands if Mama Chen hates him for lying about Sarah and keeping her alive. Boyd understands the pain she must be feeling because, remember, he also lost his wife because of Fromland. Boyd thinks that they have to do everything they have access to in order to leave this place. He's trying with everything he possibly can to get everybody who's in Fromville back to their homes, even if it means doing things like keeping Sarah alive. And it's right after he says that Kenny walks into the diner and asks him what he's doing there. But Mother Chen tells him, don't worry about it. Boyd leaves and goes to Father Catherine's church, and it's as soon as he gets there, he realizes, wait a minute, all the furniture's gone, and he starts having a crazy ass vision of a fucking ballerina, man. Like, man's completely lost his mind. The ballerina starts dancing and dancing around, and she does an entire routine and gets really up and close to Boyd's face in a really uncomfortable way. But all the while, Boyd is shook out of his damn mind. And then she starts puking worms out of her mouth, which is crazy. It's immediately after that, boom, snap back to reality. And it turns out the entire time that was happening, Boyd was still at the diner. So it's like, whoa, that entire thing was a vision. This man, oh man, he's really losing his mind. So he has a horrible reaction because of the worms, and Mama Chen tells Kenny that he's gotta take him to the hospital, and Kenny does it reluctantly. On the way there, Boyd tells Kenny that the leaves are changing and that he's never seen that happening before. Combine that with what Victor was talking about with the trees moving and the trees changing and the peaches not coming. I'm starting to get the vibe that Fromland itself is dying. Or maybe there's two entities, and the one who maintains the town to help the humans is dying and losing power, and he's fighting another entity. There's lots of possibilities. Maybe that's the entity responsible for providing them food. Or maybe it was Martin that was doing all of that. So his death means there's nobody to do it anymore. Interesting to think about. As they're walking to the clinic, the worms start having a crazy reaction, and Boyd's pain is getting way worse and more frequent. Boyd tells Kenny about the worms crawling under his skin, and Kenny just gives him a look saying, this man has lost his damn mind. And that was even before Boyd starts asking Kenny if he can hear the music as well. And at that point, Kenny knows this man is long gone. You can't save him. The ballerina busts out of the cellar as the music box is playing and she just walks away. When Boyd turns back around, the cellar is already closed. And guess what? Kenny didn't see any of what Boyd was talking about. So, yeah, Boyd is really looking crazy right about now. We see Christy looking for a hair clip and she finds a pamphlet for a rehab center in Marielle's bags. Christy gets angry because Mary lied to her that she was on the bus because she wanted to go visit her aunt, but she didn't tell her that the reality was she was actually going to rehab. Mary claims that she's got her drug problems under control, but Christy questions her and she really doubts what Mary is talking about. Then she asks if she's ever taken anything from the medicine cabinet, and at first she tries denying it, but Christy keeps prying her and she admits it. She admits she stole some of the morphine, but she says it was just this one time, just to even herself out of it. It's this one time, just this once. She's not gonna do it again. But obviously, we know that she's just being full of shit, and that's definitely not true. She's definitely going to do it again when she gets the opportunity. Mary says she's going for a walk, but Christy tells her she can't leave because it's about to be dark soon. And Mary just says, fuck you, you know? So Boyd and Kenny arrive at the hospital. Boyd tells Christy the story of how he got the worms, but Christy doesn't believe him. He tells her that Martin gashed him and told him, my blood is your blood now, and that afterwards the worms appeared in his body. And then the dungeon disappeared. But Christy doesn't believe him because she can't see the worms. In fact, no one can. Boyd says that the worms had been feeding on him for years and he passed them on to Boyd because the worms wouldn't let him die. So, this seems to be confirmation from the writers that the reason the old man lived so long, seemingly without food or water, was because of the worms and that he couldn't die as long as he had them in his bodies. But with all of the pain he was going through, he really wanted to die. Boyd asks Christy to end it for him if things get to that point, if things ever get to that point for him, because he doesn't want to die like Martin. He doesn't want to live or die like Martin. Christy talks to Kenny and he asks her if she saw the worms, and Christy says that she didn't. She says that Boyd's been through a lot and he's just tired, so that's why he's seeing all of these things. Kenny doesn't agree. He says that this is how it starts. With Papa Chen, he would see things that weren't there, and Kenny and his mom would rationalize it using similar excuses. Oh, he's had a long day. Oh, he's just under a lot of stress. But one day his mind just broke. Christie says Parkinson's leading to dementia doesn't happen that early on in the development and that it's really unlikely, anyways. But obviously, Kenny, he doesn't have the same optimism. We cut to Donna and the Matthews, plus Mama Chen rationing the food, and Donna thinks if they do this correctly, that food can last them an entire year. Jim says this food won't even last a month, not even if they do rationing. Tabitha gets angry at Jim for telling the truth. Jim has a kinda Ned Stark moment where he's acting really naive and says the people need to know about how little food there is. Donna thinks all that's gonna do is make people panic. And Jim says Donna should have told them about it before. Donna gets angry and asks him, was she supposed to tell them when he was buried under a house? Or when exactly was she supposed to do that? How would that improve the situation? And Jim thinks the lack of food is intentional by the creators of Fromville in order to increase the stress level. And I agree with that. The reality is that Donna's approach is better. With everything that's been going on, adding a food shortage onto that is really going to add to the instability in this town. Jim is thinking too naive because things can get really dangerous really quick. But in my opinion, if I was Boyd or Donna, I wouldn't have people eating on a day to day basis, anyways. Considering the situation, I'd probably give people snacks every now and then with full meals every couple days, not breakfast and every morning like what's happening here in Fromville. Back at the clinic, Boyd has another vision of the ballerina, and the music box, she seemingly attacks Boyd and tries suffocating him. Then Mary shows up out of nowhere and asks him if he's okay because he's clearly having some sort of whatever the fuck. He's doing something crazy, but he points the gun at her. Then Boyd realizes he made a huge mistake and puts the gun down. But let's be honest, from an outside perspective, Boyd is a man with dementia and clearly experiencing a severe mind collapse. To an inside experiencer, like the people living in the town, the last thing you'd want to do is to give him a gun. In Colony House, we see Ellis and Fatima piling up food, and we see that the guy who theorized Fromville is an alternate dimension, questioning Ellis about the food and his relationship stability as well. Donna tells Alice and Fatima that she's taking all the food to Kenny's house for rationing. Donna thinks it's better to lie about the food than say it's running out. And we see Ellis is handling things at Colony House and he asks Fatima if she's okay because he can see that she's clearly distressed. Ellis told Fatima about Boyd's reasons for keeping Sarah alive, and Fatima gets angry because Boyd bringing Sarah back to the town made everything worse because of the instability. But Ellis defends him. Fatima gets angry that he kept it from her, but realistically, let's be honest, she's overreacting because Ellis, in fact, he didn't keep anything from her. It's only been like 2 days since Boyd came back, and Ellis has already told her everything that Boyd told him. So, yeah, he hasn't been keeping anything. He hasn't been keeping anything from her. Ellis says Fatima's issues aren't because of Boyd, but because of something else. Ever since those people got killed while they were at Boyd's office, she's been suffering a lot, and Ellis has taken a notice to that. At that moment, there's commotion going on, and they go to check it out, and turns out Elgin was stealing food. The parallel dimension guy tells everybody that the storm wiped out the food and is angry about the radio tower ending up being a useless thing. And now there's so many people that they're running out of food. He knows that Donna and Ellis and all of them are lying about it. Dale says that all of the thieves have to go. He turns around with them and shouts, "Get outside," to the people from the bus because some of them, including Elgin, have been stealing food. Ellis tries to calm him down, but bam! Parallel dimension guy stabs Ellis in the stomach. He apologizes for it, but it's way too late. Ellis does the worst thing you could do with the stab wound, and he removes the knife. Oh boy. And because of that, the bleeding starts getting way worse. Fatima tries telling him he's gonna be okay, but let's be honest, he dead. Boyd has another vision with Katri. Katri says that Boyd was the most stubborn asshole he's ever met, but that Boyd has changed over time because when he knew him, Boyd would never have asked for help before, but he's doing it now. Katri says all the people upstairs think Boyd's gone crazy. And Boyd asks him if he has, and Katri says probably because he's currently talking to a figment of his imagination. Katri tells Boyd that Boyd tried a lot to help people in the town, but not everything, but not every story, but not every story is meant to have a happy ending. Boyd tells him that Katri is still the worst fucking priest he's ever met. And Kenny shows up right at that moment and finds Boyd talking to himself. Kenny's there to confront Boyd about pulling a gun out on Marielle. Boyd tells Kenny that something happened to him in the woods, but Kenny just thinks that Boyd's gone crazy, so he won't let him go upstairs to where everybody else is. Fatima tells Ellis that they'll take him to the clinic, but Ellis says that it's way too dangerous. It's not worth it. Ellis says he can't run to the van. It's impossible. So yeah, we get this scene of Elgin running outside very, very impulsively, and he almost gets got by the monsters, but he gets the van safely and drives up to Colony House. Now, this could have gone really, really, really wrong because, first of all, Elgin, he didn't even ask where the keys to the van is. He didn't even ask if they have like a spare talisman that he could put in the van so he doesn't get attacked by the monsters. He just did it so impulsively. It's crazy, you know? And there was so many better ways to have done this. What would have happened if Elgin managed to get to the van, but oh, oops, nobody left the keys in the car? What would have happened then? Anyways, they get Alice in the van, and one of the monsters puts his hand up on the window, but they make it out of there just in time. Alice was definitely coming close to death here. They get Alice to the hospital and they tell Christy that he got stabbed in a fight. Boyd shows up and he's really scared for Alice, but Alice can barely breathe because of all the blood that's filling his chest. Mary wants to help out, but Christy doesn't believe she can do it. Christy manages to remove the blood in his chest, and Alice starts breathing again. Elgin is looking really sus in this scene, and he looks really guilty while he's on the sidelines, and he just walks away. Probably because all of this happened because of his nonsense. Fatima gets scared that Alice is gonna die, but Boyd reassures her. Christy shows up and tells Boyd that they can save him, but they need someone to donate blood to Alice. Turns out both Boyd and Alice are O negative, and that means that they are universal donors. So they can successfully transfuse blood to anybody on the planet. Boyd says he's not gonna do it because if he does that, then Alice is gonna have the bloodworms. But Christy doesn't believe that there's worms in the first place. Nobody does. Fatima thinks the worms can't be worse than dying, even if he is right about them. But looking at the old man, maybe they're way worse than dying. Kenny pulls his gun out on Boyd and tries to force him to do it. But Marielle sees the worms on his arm, so yeah, now we know for a fact that it's not a hallucination because everybody can see the worms. Everybody realizes that the worms are real, but Christy says they need to do the transfusion anyways in order to save Alice. They have to risk it. Kenny offers to take the bloodworms from Boyd because then Boyd will be able to safely transfuse Alice, but Boyd says no, because he can feel the worms getting stronger and they have no idea what will happen if he passes it on to Kenny. And it's right at that moment Boyd has this eureka moment and he has an idea. Boyd says it has to go somewhere, right? So Boyd walks out of the hospital and he goes outside. He starts taunting the monsters. Come get me. I know you're out there. You want to play games? I'm right here. Smiley shows up with a gigantic smile, just walking all ominously. A bunch of his friends show up like they want to jump Boyd, but nah. All they do is stand by the side. Boyd ends up slashing Smiley's throat, but nothing happens. He's invincible? He just stands there and takes it. Boyd puts his hands up on the slash and tells him, my blood is your blood, motherfucker. And it seems painful as fuck for Boyd as he's doing that. But Smiley just shrugs it off and says, I like this game. Then something crazy happens. Smiley has a massive reaction to getting infected by Boyd, and he absolutely loses his mind. He can't control his body anymore. He starts completely freaking out. The interesting is that the monsters lose all interest in Boyd after they see whatever the fuck is happening to the Smiley dude, and they all surround the Smiley dude. Boyd just walks away and they do nothing. They just let him go. Boyd comes back to the clinic and Kenny is shook by whatever he just saw Boyd doing. And Boyd ends up doing the transfusion to Alice. We see Marielle really eyeing that medicine cabinet, and it's very obvious that she's not going to be able to control her addiction. We see Ethan talking to Donna. Ethan gets worried that the Chen house is also gonna collapse like theirs, but Donna says it won't happen because his parents aren't gonna dig another hole like they did before in their home. Ethan says he told his parents he wasn't scared, but in reality he is. He's tired of being here in Fromville and he really wants to go home. Donna tells Ethan that fear is an asset and it's part of what makes you special. Donna tells him you can't be brave if you aren't afraid. Fear is what makes us heroes. Then Ethan gives Donna a hug. At the hospital, Boyd says he's okay, and Ellie seems to be doing really well. But I'll be honest, I was definitely expecting Alice to become a monster or to see a crazy vision or something like that, but no. So far, he's actually doing really well. Fatima leaves the room and she starts crying about how Alice almost died and the worms and how she's tired of living in Fromville. She tells Christy to keep a secret, then she asks her if she has any pregnancy tests. So, yeah, she is preggo. She's pregnant. Kenny walks up to Boyd and says, Boyd was right. They should have listened to him. Kenny asks if Smiley's body moved, and Boyd says no. Kenny asks, is Smiley dead? Boyd says, we'll find out soon enough. So, yeah. that was the episode. I'm very happy that we're finally diving really deep into the biology of these creatures. Considering that Martin was chained up in the dungeon, there's only two possibilities to the worms. Either the worms are a weakness, if not the weakness. Option two is that they're actually something that strengthens them. Basing it off of the reaction the Smiley dude had after getting infected, I'm guessing it's not a good thing for them. For the idea that the worms revert the monsters back to their human self, it's worth noting the other monsters didn't attack the body. So it's possible that it takes a while to kick in properly, like 24 hours or something, or they didn't kill him because he's still a monster, but the worms just temporarily incapacitated him. They've got to proceed carefully with whatever happened to Smiley Dude. I'm very interested to see what happens to the body when it gets exposed to the sunlight. It's hard to say if it's actually dead or if it's actually evolving into a stronger monster, but whatever's gonna happen, I'm really looking forward to it. With the parallel dimension dude, I was kind of sad that he's such a fucking idiot because his parallel dimension theory is definitely something that's really plausible. There's a lot of hints about whatever's going on in Fromland being something, I don't know, like extra normal. Maybe that's the word. I don't know, but something like alternate dimension. I think that would make a lot of sense. Father Catri's conversation with Boyd was very interesting. It was almost as if he was telling Boyd, "It's over. Give up. You're not gonna win." And he kept insisting and hammering in that he was a figment of his imagination. But is that really true, though? I don't know. Boyd described the worms as a nightmare under his skin, and they've really been emphasizing the "is it a dream" thing in this season. What if Katri is a real entity? Maybe he wanted Boyd to give up because getting the worms is really bad for whatever his agenda is, we don't know. Boyd actually didn't listen to him and he didn't give up. And it's this same night that Boyd seemingly discovers the weakness of the monsters. And what's up with the ballerina? I really got the vibe that she wanted Boyd to go into that cellar, but he didn't do it. I don't think I've seen that cellar before. I think it's a new location, like the Peaches truck. It also looked like it was very separated from the main town itself. Was the ballerina trying to show Boyd things? Was she trying to give him information? Where did she come from, anyways? Because it's kind of weird for seemingly supernatural creatures to have such a fascination with ballet. Doesn't really make much sense. People would have hated this episode if Marielle didn't confirm the worms were real and we didn't get that monster versus worms scene. It was an interesting episode, but I still don't understand why some actors were saying this episode would change what we thought we knew about Fromland. When someone says that, I'm expecting a massive revelation like, "Oh shit, we're all in a snow globe," or "Oh shit, we're living on the balls of some the gigantic turtle that's flying through the galaxy or something." I don't know, but them saying that this episode changes everything we thought we knew, but it really didn't. But anyways, it's still one of the best episodes. But I think episode one of season two is the best episode because mostly because the ending with Martin just completely blew my mind. The possibilities and the options that arrive from such a revelation were enormous. Either you have other people living in Frontland, the monsters themselves hid him and tortured him. Like the possibilities are just endless with Martin in the dungeon. So I think that was better. But this episode is definitely number two for me as an individual. But it's worth noting how the monsters are weak, seemingly weak to worms, and we've seen crows being really highlighted in this series. And it's very obvious to anybody that birds and worms are obviously beta enemies. because birds love eating worms, you know? So maybe that dynamic is flipped where if the birds eat the worms in the series, they get killed. So that's interesting. Or the worms are poisonous to the birds as some sort of irony to the real world. Um, Pas de Deux is also a famous ballet dance in which two people, usually male or female, perform ballet steps together. It's used in plays like Sleeping Beauty and Swan Lake, and that's the name of the episode. So, does it refer to the worms and monsters maintaining some sort of balance to each other? I don't know. It could be that Smiley Joker guy isn't dead, but he's transforming. Maybe he'll be able to walk in the sun, seemingly unlike these other monsters. Or will he revert back to human form? Everybody's been talking about, oh, the bartender's the mole, maybe it's Steely, maybe Elgin's the mole. But what if we are the ones getting the mole and not the enemy? Maybe this will turn Smiley, but he'll keep the memories he had as a monster. Maybe this will turn Smiley because think about how crazy that would be. Our characters would have a mole on the inside of the monsters. That would be crazy. That would be quite a twist, don't you think? Thanks. But, anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.